It was January 6, 1982, a bitter cold evening with blizzard-like conditions, when two women hitchhikers vanished from the popular ski resort town of Breckenridge, Colorado, and were later found shot to death. Even though the women, 29-year-old Bobby Jo Oberholzer and 21-year-old Annette Schnee, disappeared on the same day, their cases were not linked until Annette's body was discovered 6 months later. Bobby Jo Oberholzer was a free-spirited 29-year-old who had recently moved to Colorado. She and her husband Jeff settled in the town of Alma, around 30 minutes south of the popular ski resort of Breckenridge. On the evening of January 6, 1982, Bobby Jo called Jeff, saying she was out for drinks with friends in Breckenridge and would be home soon. Bobby Jo frequently hitchhiked, as did many people at that time, and told Jeff she would get a ride. But she seemingly vanished around 7:50 p.m. after leaving a local pub. When she didn't make it home, Jeff went to the police, but was told it was too soon to file a missing persons report. The next morning, a rancher rang Jeff and told him that he found Bobby Jo's driver's license and some of her other items in his driveway. Jeff headed to the ranch and on the way found Bobby Jo's backpack and that bloody glove and tissue in the snow. A group of friends then set out to search for Bobby Jo on the snow-covered Hoosier Pass between Breckenridge and Alma. Bobby Jo usually took this route home. The group of friends on cross-country skis found Bobby Jo's lifeless body lying off the road on the side of a snowbank on Hoosier Pass, about 10 miles outside of Breckenridge, where she was last seen. Investigators say Bobby Jo's body was frozen due to the frigid temperatures. Her hands were close together with zip ties around her left wrist. Investigators believe Bobby Jo was shot at close range in the chest and that she had been trying to escape her attacker. In the parking lot of Hoosier Pass, not far from Bobby Jo Oberholzer's body, lay a Soul Orange booty sock. It didn't belong. It didn't fit anything connected to Bobby Jo Oberholzer. Then Colorado Bureau of Investigation agent Jim Hardkey told 48 Hours. It was just one of those mysterious things that you pick up at a crime scene. Also found in the parking lot was a large brass hook key ring that Jeff Oberholzer made for Bobby Jo to use if she ever needed to defend herself. A second woman is reported missing. On January 8th, the day after Bobby Jo Oberholzer's body was discovered, a co-worker of 21-year-old Annette Schnee reported her missing. After establishing Annette's final movements, investigators learned that she was last seen in Breckenridge around 4:30 p.m. on January 6th, just hours before Bobby Jo went missing. Annette also often hitchhiked, one of the reasons investigators suspected the cases could be connected. Annette Schnee's body was discovered on July 3, 1982, 6 months after her disappearance. A young boy was fishing at Sacramento Creek about 23 miles outside Breckenridge when he came across Annette's body fully clothed and face down in the water. Investigators believe Annette was shot in the back at a downward angle and may have been on her knees or running downhill away from the shooter. While authorities found no physical evidence, Annette was sexually assaulted and her clothing was in disarray. The zipper on her blue jeans was broken and her shoes were on the wrong feet when her body was found. At Annette Schnee's autopsy, former CBI agent Jim Hardkey noticed Annette was wearing an orange booty sock on her left foot, which appeared to match the one found at Bobby Jo Oberholzer's crime scene. "I'm saying, this is amazing. This ties the cases together," said Hardkey. Investigators believe Annette lost one sock in the killer's vehicle when she fled, and it remained there until hours later when he picked up Bobby Jo, and it fell out when she escaped. The murders of Annette Schnee and Bobby Jo Oberholzer mystified authorities for nearly 40 years. But over that time, advances in DNA allowed them to isolate an unknown male profile from the blood found on Bobby Jo's glove and the tissue. In early 2020, Park County Detective Sergeant Wendy Kipple and her team took a chance and gave a sample of that unknown DNA to United Data Connect, a Denver-based company that runs DNA profiles through publicly available genealogical databases. After a year, Kipple got a call about two possible matches: 69-year-old Alan Lee Phillips and his older brother, Bruce Phillips. Sergeant Kipple contacted Bruce Phillips, who said he never lived in Colorado, but his estranged brother, Alan Lee Phillips, did. Kipple discovered Alan Lee Phillips had been convicted of assault and burglary in 1973, almost a decade before Bobby Jo and Annette went missing, and served 6 months behind bars. The police report from that incident included this booking photo of the then 22-year-old Phillips and his signed confession. In the confession, Phillips admitted to picking up a woman who was hitchhiking in Breckenridge and physically assaulting her by an empty cabin. After digging deeper into Alan Lee Phillips' background, Detective Sergeant Kipple and her team were convinced he was the man who murdered Bobby Jo Oberholzer and Annette Schnee. But they needed proof, so they set out to secretly obtain his DNA to see if it matched the blood found on Bobby Jo's belongings. In late January 2021, they began covertly tailing Phillips, and finally, after 5 weeks, they got a big break. When Phillips went to a Sonic drive-in one day to grab some food, detectives were right there. Later that day, he discarded the bag in this post office trash can near where he lived. Kipple and her team were there to retrieve it after he left. Phillips's DNA was pulled from the saliva on a napkin in the bag. On February 23, 2021, the DNA results concluded it was Alan Phillips' blood that was on Bobby Joe's glove and that tissue. Later, DNA testing conducted on the orange booty found near Bobby Joe's body would confirm the murders were linked. Annette's DNA was on the inside of the sock and Bobby Joe's DNA was on the outside. On February 24, 2021, Alan Lee Phillips was arrested for the women's murders during a traffic stop near his home. He was initially charged with 2 counts each of first-degree homicide, kidnapping, and assault. He denied any involvement in the crimes. On September 15, 2022, a Park County jury found Alan Lee Phillips guilty of 2 counts each of first-degree murder, felony murder, and kidnapping. A little over 7 weeks later, he was given 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Annette Schnee and Bobby Joe Oberholzer. During the sentencing, Phillips's lawyer told the court that his client maintained his innocence and has been wrongfully convicted. Phillips died by suicide in prison on February 27, 2023.